Gabrielle, who's going to introduce our speaker tonight.
The Middletown Township Historical Society is pleased to welcome back one of our favorite presenters, Melissa Ziobro. She has a long and distinguished record in the history field, despite her relative youth. She began at Fort Monmouth, spent 7 years there, ended as the post historian. Now, Fort Monmouth left Monmouth County, but Fort Monmouth hasn't left Melissa. It's the subject of her latest book, and I hope she will tell us about it. She keeps the memory of Fort Monmouth alive through numerous articles and talks. You missed one last night, but I'm sure it will be presented again soon. She has spent almost 2 decades at Monmouth University, where she was educated, and most of them in professorial and managerial roles. She has edited the scholarly online publication, New Jersey Studies. She has curated museum exhibitions. She has been the trustee and is the trustee of numerous organizations, including the county historical groups of both Monmouth and Ocean County, perhaps a unique distinction. She has written and lectured extensively throughout the area. She is our figurative Zelig of Jersey Shore history. She's all over, but we're pleased to have her here tonight to talk about the Bruce Springsteen Archives and the Center for American Music. Welcome.
So much for that very warm. And when we were talking about my introduction, I said, Randy, it's fine. Say it's Melissa from Monmouth. It's fine. So thank you. It's very generous of you. Randy is certainly one of my local history heroes. So again, I am the director of public history at Monmouth University in nearby West Long Branch, and I am the curator of Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music there. If you are not familiar with the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music, you're familiar. So Bruce's repository, preserve his legacy, and you'll see some of the items that are in our collection today. But we are also the Center for American Music, and that piece is very, very important to us as well. That piece allows us to explore American history through that very prism of music. So we'll talk about that. And the idea that American music, that was something that was very important to our executive director, Bob Santelli. So as Randy noted, I start my career as a historian for the U.S. Army at Fort Monmouth. I was there from 2004 through 2011 when the base closed. And as I always like to say, I resigned in protest rather than leave the great state of New Jersey. But I was fortunate to go land back out my alma mater. So I've been teaching in the Department of History and Anthropology for 17 years, first part-time while I was at the Fort and then full-time. I've taught a variety of classes over the years: Western Civ, U.S. history, the business and economic development of the United States, the Vietnam War, could go on and on. But I've got history classes. The classroom. So these classes include things like museums and archives management, historic preservation, oral history. Students who watch what I had done at Fort Monmouth, right? They want to go and they want to work in our park systems and museums and archives. And so this is how I first became with the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music. 16 or so that it came to my attention that the archives were there on campus and we faculty could use them as a sandbox with our students. My goodness, what an opportunity, right? And so from 2016 forward, my classes would adopt projects per semester with the archives. We might do oral history projects. We might do digitization. One semester, we did a wonderful exhibit in the university library, which then turned into a partnership with the Monmouth County Historical Association in Freehold. In 2019, we came together to host the exhibit, Bruce Springsteen, His Hometown, for his 70th birthday. So this is actually me and my colleague Eileen Chapman with Bruce looking at baby Bruce at Monmouth County Historical Association in 2019. Although I just moved over to serve as the curator full-time last August, so a little over a year ago, I've been working with the archives and the folks there since around 2016. So I'm going to speak for roughly 45 minutes. We're going to talk a little about the archives history, our current work, and our very exciting future and how much we look forward to bringing a new museum here to Monmouth County. Briefly talk about Bruce, because sometimes I have to remind myself that not everybody knows Bruce's life story like the back of their hand, right? So let's just talk a little bit about Bruce. Adele Zerilli and Douglas Springsteen welcomed their first child, Bruce, on September 23rd, 1949, in a hospital in Long Branch. They will return to Freehold. They'll live in a few different houses there throughout Bruce's childhood. The Springsteens are a Catholic, Irish-Italian, working-class family who have to work to make ends meet. Bruce, of course, maintains very close ties with Freehold too. So Bruce grows up and he writes and talks about how there's always a lot of music in the house. He talks about how his mom and his aunts, they love to sing and dance. He talks about seeing Elvis on TV as a kid and being like, oh my God, I want to be like that guy. Real band, the Castiles, in 1965. Interestingly, the drummer from that band, the Castiles, Bart Haynes, he will enlist in the Marines and he will die in Vietnam. As Bruce recalls in his autobiography, Bart comes to one last band practice in his uniform. And he's joking about how he couldn't find Vietnam on a map if he had to. And he takes one last stab at playing the opening to Wipeout on the drums, and everyone's joking because he just can't get that song down right. And that is the last time, of course, Bruce sees Bart. So it is influences from Monmouth County, like, say, the story of Bart Haynes, that Bruce will carry with him as he moves forward into his career. So anyway, the Castiles are going to break up as teen bands do, and Bruce will experiment with a few other bands before getting his recording contract, actually initially as a solo artist. His first two albums come out in 1973. He's from Asbury Park, New Jersey. Very specifically, he wanted New Jersey in the title. And The Wild, The Innocent, and The E Street Shuffle. Now, those first two albums, they get pretty positive critical reviews, but they're not really selling like hotcakes. In fact, there's a funny story Bruce tells about how the record company kind of calls him in and they're giving him the bad news about how, I'm going to make up a number here, it's roughly 30,000 albums are sold or something like that, right? They don't think it's a great number, but Bruce is like, wow, that many people bought my record? That is crazy, right? But I share that story because in 1973, it is not immediately evident Bruce is going to become this world famous artist with, you know, an incredible catalog and all of this societal impact. It'll not be until 1975 with the release of his album Born to Run that he becomes a breakout hit. That year, famously appears on the covers of both Time and Newsweek simultaneously, which was like, oh my goodness, you have really, really made it. Bruce pretty quickly decides that if he has this platform, he wants to use it for causes he supports. One of the earliest is for Vietnam veterans, but he will also use his music to support causes like income inequality, food insecurity, 9/11 first responders, etc. To this day, Bruce is still selling out stadiums literally across the globe and winning not just recording industry accolades, but honors like the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So this is a man whose songs, whose career reflect over 50 years of American history. Now, the focus of our talk today is just kind of meeting the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music, but I have to give a special shout out to Middletown. It is, of course, where E Street Band member Stephen Van Zandt spends much of his with his early band, Shadows. I'm sure I don't have to remind you that Middle Street recently renamed a road in honor of Steve and his brother Billy. If you have not read Stephen's autobiography, my goodness, you have to get it. It is a ride. It's amazing. I actually listened to it. It was even better hearing him narrate it in his own voice, but I highly recommend that to all of you Middletown history lovers. And speaking of autobiographies, is all over Bruce's. He talks about how he regularly went to and played shows at places like the Hullabaloo, which we were talking about earlier, and the VFW and the Clearwater Swim Club, whose address I alternately see listed as Atlantic Highlands and Middletown, but Bruce refers to it always as Middletown. The swim club is actually the scene of a rather famous show. They're trying to raise bail money for drummer Vinny Mad Dog Lopez, and an absolute melee breaks out with the police. So maybe I can come back another time and do just an hour on Bruce and the E Street Band and Middletown specifically. I bet that would be a lot of fun. But let's move on to looking at our mission. As I said, it's a dual mission, being Bruce's official repository and teaching U.S. history through that very accessible prism of music. How does this all come to be? We're going to go back all the way back to around 2001. Fans collect stuff, right? Doesn't matter if you're a Harry Potter fan or a Taylor Swift fan or a Bruce Springsteen fan. Fans collect stuff. And so there's this dedicated group of Springsteen fans, and I'm purposely not going to list names because I don't want to leave anybody out and upset anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. Dedicated group of Springsteen fans who, are in contact with each other in early web forums through different fan magazines. And they're like, you know what? We should pool our collections and make them publicly accessible. We think there would be a lot of interest. We think there's a demand for this. And so they wind up actually formally organizing a nonprofit known as the Friends of the Bruce Springsteen Special Collection. So everything we do today owes a great debt to these people. So they're going to pool their collections. They're going to try to catalog it. They find a home for the collection initially at the Asbury Park Public Library. Now, the Asbury Park Public Library, they were doing a good thing, right? But they're a local lending library. They're not set up as a formal archive. There's initially a closet that they dedicate to the collection, but for a number of reasons, it becomes clear that that's not the best long-term solution. And through a lot of different advocacy on the part of the Friends group, my executive director, Bob Santelli, who is a Monmouth University alum, who went on to write for Rolling Stone and then run the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Grammy Museum, he had kind of worked with Bruce. He gets involved in what's going to happen with the collection. My other colleague, Eileen Chapman, who is an Asbury Park councilwoman, lifelong Asbury Park resident. So people are talking, what could we do? What could we do? They wind up bringing the collection to Monmouth University, okay? Comes to Monmouth University in 2011. Interestingly, the library team at the time, it's not the library team we have now. The library team at the time doesn't want it to go there. It's not the right fit. It doesn't really, so it's not going to go to the library, but the advocacy continues. The university dedicates what was a residential house to this collection. It's adjacent to the campus, and so it moves into this residential house. So it's there in 2011. They continue to make sure everything is boxed in proper archival materials, to make sure there's an accurate accounting of what's there, right? Researchers start to come in, whether they're doing books or films. Faculty start to get involved, like I said, with my classes. And then we are going to see something really, really special happen in 2017 is when Bruce himself will get involved and decide that we are going to be his official repository. And so we are going to then become, instead of the Bruce Springsteen Special Collection, the span-based collection, we are now going to take that and combine it and form the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music. Now, this tiny house that the university generously donated is going to be insufficient to be Bruce Springsteen's official repository. And so plans begin to build a proper building for the collection. Of course, the COVID pandemic being in there kind of delayed our plans a bit, but we are getting ready to open our new building by 2026. And I'll talk more about the new building in just a sec. Why Monmouth? Again, I told you that there were people advocating to bring the collection to Monmouth, but why? Why would it not go, to some big institution in New York or DC? Why Monmouth? A lot of Bruce must be a Monmouth alum. He's a Monmouth County guy. He must be a Monmouth University alum. He is not a Monmouth alum. He does some time at Ocean County College before deciding college is not for him. He is familiar with Bruce actually playing in front of our National Register building, the Great Hall, previously known as Wilson Hall. But you know what? Bruce is a local guy. He could raise his family anywhere in the world that he wanted to, but he chose to do it right here in Monmouth County, right? Bruce also liked the fact that we were an institution of higher learning, right? It wasn't just going to be like a Bruce museum for the sake of a Bruce museum. It was on a campus where classes were going to become, where faculty were there doing research. And so it was very appealing to Bruce in that way. And of course, he was just familiar with it, having been there before. So there's a number of reasons that Monmouth gets picked as the location. And so it was in October of 2023 that we finally announced we were going to launch this new building on the campus of Monmouth University, as he does for various events that we have on campus. So the new building, what's it going to look like? I'm going to show you photos in a minute. Hold on. Let's first talk the collection. What is all of this stuff that we need to build a new building? So currently in the archives house, everything is climate control, secure, properly held in archival materials. And my goodness, it's a little bit of everything, right? You can see that is Bruce's high school yearbook. In the middle, it's kind of small, but that is a Babe Ruth Little League program featuring Bruce when he was a kid playing Little League. That is one of Bruce's term papers on the end there. A lot of people, they think of Bruce and they think of the Stone Pony in Asbury Park. And that's certainly fitting, but the Stone Pony doesn't open until 1974. Bruce already has 2 albums out at that point. Actually, an even more formative club to Bruce is this place known as the Upstage in Asbury Park. Of the upstage wall that were salvaged, and you can still see the day glow paint there. We have Bruce's mom's scrapbooks, which are, of course, absolutely invaluable. People will often ask me, Melissa, what's your favorite item in the collection? And that's really hard, right? That's like asking somebody to pick their favorite child. You can't do that. But I would say amongst my favorite items are the scrapbooks, right? Because as a mom, I think of Adele. She doesn't know he's going to be famous. He's going to be rich. She just loves him and is proud of him. And she's clipping out newspaper articles. Her scrapbooks go back to his early career. And there are newspaper clippings, there are photos, there are letters between her and the record company. There's one letter where, of course, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like, we just loved those records you sent us. Could we get 2 more free copies? Because all the aunts and uncles want them, right? And I think that's the sweetest thing. It shows the novelty of an artist, really professionalizing. There's a scrapbooks because, of course, Bruce's mom, dad, and youngest sister move out to California at one point. And so her sisters, who were still here in New Jersey, are like cutting out Asbury Park Press articles and mailing them to California to make sure she doesn't miss them, right? Because it's the pre-internet days and she wouldn't have seen them otherwise. We also have the scrapbooks of Tex and Marion Vineyard. Tex and Marion were a freehold couple who were like older than Bruce and his teen bandmates in the Castiles, but a little younger than the parents. So they're like these cool adults who really allowed Bruce's first band, the Castiles, to practice in their home. And Marion was kind of a den mother to the group, and Tex would arrange their shows and fix their equipment for them. So really mentors to Bruce before anybody knows who Bruce is. And after he hits it big, he keeps in touch with them for the rest of their lives. And so Marion has scrapbooks for the entirety of Bruce, which have just never before seen photos, correspondence, etc. Are some of our fan favorites alternate album covers. So famed Born in the USA album cover, what the record companies would do was physically mock up other covers and lay them out before the artists and ask them which one they liked. So you can see what have been the other covers. We've got 3-dimensional, objects. Monmouth County Historical Association. The band, when they were touring in their early years, would take the keys when they left the hotel. And that just makes me giggle because it was such a novelty to stay in the hotel that you were going to take the keys with you when you left. And fans really liked that one when they currently don't have space to store much of Bruce's instruments, clothing, etc., but we can borrow them as needed for exhibits. So for association, so we've got a jacket and boots and guitar there, so we borrow those as needed. Our collecting mission is focused on Bruce. Okay, we could not collect the entire of American music history. That's not practical. We do acquire artifacts on occasion as needed for specific projects. Like this is an Edison standard phonograph that we got for a Music America exhibit we currently have traveling, which I'll discuss more in a moment. So speaking of the traveling exhibits, we don't have a building yet, but I think you'll agree we are quite busy. And again, I want to note, I mentioned our executive director, Bob Santelli, our director, Eileen Chapman. There's me, the curator, our programs manager, Jerry Houseworth, our operations manager, Annalon LeMay, and we have a part-time processing archivist, Graciela St. Ange. So we're a small team. Have a space to do exhibits. We've been traveling exhibits. That is curating exhibits that then get installed at. So I mentioned Monmouth Historical Association. I just give a shout out to like Bernie Rogoff, Meg Sharp-Walton, Linda Bricker, who were great partners when we went and, co-curated this exhibit there in 2019. This our Music America exhibit, which is our current large traveling exhibit. So we're coming up on America's 250th birthday, right? We wanted to get ahead of celebrating that. And so Music America brings together roughly 150 objects from throughout American history to tell the story of American history through music. So the oldest item in this exhibit is a 1700s hymnal from Boston. So it's like literally there, the cradle of the revolution. All the way through to, we just had Taylor Swift's outfit and guitar on display there. So the objects in Music America come from our collection, and then it's supplemented by other institutions across the country, like the Grammy Museum, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, New Orleans Jazz Museum, etc. So, everything from Ray Charles, suit and sunglasses, Born in the USA outfits, B.B. King's guitar. I could go on and on and on. It's a very exciting exhibit. We installed it first at the Lyndon Johnson Presidential Library and Museum in Austin, Texas. It was there from February through August, and I just got back from installing it at the Grammy Museum in Mississippi. It will be here at our museum when we open in 2026. We have an outpost, we're calling it right now, in Asbury Park's Convention Hall, where you can see some of the items from our collection, and importantly, where we are selling merchandise. We are a 501c3 underneath Monmouth University. So we do not get like an annual budget from the university. We are not directly funded by any one donor. We have to fundraise for ourselves. And that means looking for grants and looking for donations and selling merchandise. We just had a cute little experience. We see somebody posted on Facebook. There's a gentleman from, I believe it was England, who's visiting the United States. He's in Asbury Park eating lunch wearing one of our shirts. And he sees Bruce walk in the restaurant. And he's basically like, play it cool, don't bother him, let him eat. And as Bruce is walking out, he taps him on the shoulder and says, nice shirt, and offers to take a picture with him. So we were like, ah. Also do a lot of programming. So we do different kind of intimate meet the artist events. This is our executive director, Bob Santelli, interviewing Bruce. We do different events paired with significant Bruce anniversaries. So like for the 50th anniversary of Bruce's first 2 albums, we did events on campus where he came, different members of the band came, production team, etc. Because Bruce, with of our students, we hire roughly 8 or so student workers per semester who are invaluable to help us with a variety of tasks. Bruce is always, sometimes people will be like, what's Bruce like? The one thing I always say to kind of exemplify what Bruce is like, he always makes time for our students. Does he need to do that when he's on our campus? No, but he's always got time to stop, to talk to the students, to answer their questions, to take photos. And I think, there you go, that speaks to the measure of the man. We do a lot of different kind of musical events. So for example, when our Music America exhibit opened at the LBJ Library in Texas, we had a celebration of 250 years of American music history led by Lyle Lovett. We are doing academic talks on campus as well. This is noted historian Douglas was on campus last spring to discuss music and environmental activism around Earth Day. So we're trying to have as many events that are open to the public as possible. This was part of our President's Lecture Series, which will be an annual event that's free and open to the public. I am always out in the community doing talks, whether it's, meet the Bruce Springsteen Archives or the story of the V-discs of World War II or 250 years of American music history. I love getting out and talking to our history-minded folks in the community. We are running a monthly free virtual author talk series where I interview folks who have new books out related to Bruce or music history more broadly, and then the audience has the opportunity to ask questions. We are doing different workshops and programming for teachers at the K-12 level. It's Tricky was an amazing program, largely organized by the museum educator at the LBJ, collaborate with. Our big fundraising event of the year is something called American Music Honors. So we've had 2 of them so far. We're in the planning process for the 3rd one right now. This program gives awards to key figures in American music history. And the awards are given based on the artist's catalog and success, but also their activism, how they have used their platform. And so we give the awards and there are performances. Actually, Brian Williams from Middletown was our MC last year. We had John Stewart the first year and Brian Williams last year. We are actively doing oral histories, and we do oral histories with like the artists, but also other folks who have been in the orbit and have interesting stories to tell. If I can come back to Bart Haynes, Bruce's first drummer. Perhaps it's my background in military history, but one of the things I was always drawn to is I wish I knew more about Bart. You always see this kind of footnote. Yeah, his first drummer was killed in Vietnam. Well, but who is Bart? And so I made a point to interview his sister and a medic who was there the night he was killed, right? So we have a really diverse and robust oral history program that we hope will be of great use to researchers. This is one of our students on the left, Carly, and she is interviewing Marilyn Rocky, who was Bruce's landlord when he was writing Born to Run, right? Like, a letter in the archive that he wrote her, like, apologizing for the rent being late. That's me and one of my wonderful students, Steph, who's now an educator in her own right. We were interviewing Vinny Mad Dog Lopez. I mentioned him earlier. The show at the swim club was to raise money for his bail. We're working to get those online and accessible. There's always research happening, whether it's students or writers or filmmakers. You may have heard they're making a film based on Nebraska, right? And so the researchers have been in and they're looking for things in the archives. They want to make sure the film is accurate. And then we believe that we have a responsibility to create our own scholarship. So, for example, I mentioned the Stone Pony celebrating its 50th anniversary. We are working to do the research, write the application to get the Stone Pony on the National Register of Historic Places. We were recently awarded a certificate of eligibility, and we've got to forge ahead with that process. I have 2 articles coming out in the near future in scholarly journals, one about Bart. One is, I love this one. Oh gosh. I could talk about this for a whole hour, so I got to be brief. The red hat in Bruce's back pocket on the Born in the USA album cover comes from a Fort Monmouth project. So there's that local history tie, right? You'll have to wait to read the article to hear more about that. So the future, I have kind of foreshadowed our new buildings. Our tiny. This is a group we had visiting from Ireland. Someone mentioned Glenn Cashin earlier. Glenn's here in this photo. I could barely fit these people in the house at the same time, right? We are bursting at the seams, and we're not equipped currently to accommodate the public in the way that we would like to. And so there you have it. That is one artist's rendition of our new building. We are using famed architects Cook Fox out of New York. You can see another the building there. And the building, as I said, is going to be 30,000 square feet. It will include, it's 2 levels. The first floor, when you walk in, there will be a roughly 250 seat theater where we will hold intimate performances on a daily basis. It'll be where people like see the orientation film before they go into the museum, right? There'll be a gift shop on the first floor. We'll have some smaller displays in the lobby, but the first real exhibit you'll see in the lobby is devoted to Indigenous music history. We thought that it was important that you see that before you go into the main gallery, which is then going to be American music history. So the bulk of the first floor of the museum will be telling that whole story of American music history from the colonial period through the present, with a special emphasis on themes of race, gender, class, technology. And then when you go upstairs, we'll have the archive, which will be available to researchers who need to come and do their research. And we will have exhibits dedicated to Bruce as a songwriter, Bruce's legendary live performances, and then the E Street Band. So it's a lot to do in the square footage we have, but we are about to break ground. We are about to name our exhibit design team, and we are just very, very excited about the future. By one estimate, they think that some 40 or 50,000 people will come to the museum its first year, and we just can't wait for everyone to come and enjoy, and particularly people who are coming. We expect people to come from across the globe. We want them all to fall in love with New Jersey. We want them staying in our hotels and eating in our restaurants, and we want to send them out to see all the other great local history sites while they are here. So it's so important to us that we be a real part of this already very robust and vibrant New Jersey history community. Stay connected with you. If you want, if anybody does QR codes, if you point your the QR code, it'll take you to our link tree, which has all of our accounts. Our website is springsteenarchives.org. You can sign up for our newsletter there. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Spotify. I think that's all of them, but stay connected with us, whatever your favorite means of doing so is. And with that, I would love to try to answer any questions you might have or hear your Bruce story if you want to share one. Thank you so much. So question or story? Yes.
American music means different things to different listeners. And what aspects of American music will you be including? Not from a collecting and artifact standpoint, but from study and documentary standpoint. And the second part of the question, where on the campus will the building be?
Let me tackle the first one because that's the easiest. So if you are familiar with our campus, you come off the Parkway, if you're traveling on the Parkway and you're on Route 36, you take it to Cedar Ave, and Cedar Ave takes you straight to the beach. So we're pretty easy to get to. We're roughly a mile from the beach if you're not familiar. For those of you who are familiar with the campus, at the corner of Cedar and Norwood there's the beautiful gates. The library is on one side. And on the other side, on the corner, there used to be our police station, which was also kind of in a residential house, like a two-story, I think it was, residential house. The police moved into a newly refurbished building, a modernized building that will better suit their needs. They're going to take down that building on the corner and put our building there. Oh, and the second part of your question, if I understood it correctly, we aim to interpret American music history across genres. So whether we're looking at, slave spirituals or jazz or, rap and hip hop. So we're aiming to look at a variety of genres and tell the story of those genres and how they develop, how they borrow, how they play off of each other. But also, as I said, explore how different issues of race, gender, class, etc. are evident in the development of those genres. Did that answer the question, Randy? Thank you for that question. Yes.
I know in Freehold there's plans to do something with the old firehouse on Main Street to make the roofs some type of museum and center. Does that relate to what you do, or is it
Yes.
And how is that helping?
Yeah, so I can't comment so much on their timeline, but the current plan is for us to curate that space for freehold. So we will be developing the content for them. And I think ideally how it would shake out is that Bruce's kind of like the Springsteen, his hometown exhibit did with the Monmouth County Historical Association in 2019. And then when you come over to West Long Branch, kind of pick up with Bruce's career is starting. Okay, now it's 1973, and now we're looking at his career. I think ideally that would be the division of interpretation, but we'll see how things go over the next couple of years. Thank you. Yes.
Maybe there's a little Stephen has a full wealth of knowledge about American music history, particularly rock and roll history. I was just wondering if he has any thoughts.
Yeah, so we collaborate with him. That happens more with Bob and Eileen, who have known him for many, many years. But we collaborate with him. He participates in our American music honors. He has, again, you've got to get his autobiography. Like you said, he's a genius. It's amazing. But he also has a nonprofit called Teach Rock. And they provide different music-based, it's actually quite interdisciplinary, but music-based curriculum for teachers in the classroom. My colleague Eileen has been facilitating bringing Teach Rock into the Asbury Park classroom. So yes, he's amazing. And we do have the opportunities to collaborate with him and his Teach Rock organization. Yes.
As the museum grows and expands, are you guys looking for input in Monmouth County locals, like whether it be volunteer work, more stuff, or anything of the nature?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Kelly is one of my amazing, amazing former students. I'm so thrilled to see her here tonight. We do, want to be a member of the community. So if someone thinks they have an interesting story to tell, reach out to me for an oral history. If you have something you think you might want to donate, reach out to me. I can't promise we can take everything because that building's not built yet and it's already bursting at the seams. But oh gosh, I would love to hear from you and see if it's something that fits within the scope of our collecting mission. Volunteers, that's something we get asked about a lot. We're not currently equipped to just fit volunteers. By the time we get our students in the archives house, there's not really room for volunteers. But if anyone is interested in kind of getting their name on the when the volunteer program is ready list, please go ahead and reach out, because ultimately we will need the community to volunteer at the museum, whether it's as docents or in different roles. So absolutely, we appreciate and we want to collaborate with the community as much as possible, because I feel like Bruce belongs to all of Monmouth County as much as he belongs to us. Yes.
In recent years, a number of artists have sold their catalog for enormous sums of money. Do you know what plans Bruce has for his music catalog?
Randy, I said such nice things about you at the beginning. Why are you asking questions that are going to get me in trouble? No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. He has sold his catalog. It's public record. There's been news about it. You can Google it. I think he sold his catalog for $500 million, if I'm not mistaken. I believe, yes. I think he definitely sold it to Sony. I believe it was $500 million. It's public record. You can Google the amount. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Bruce has done many acts of kindness,
Yep.
and people don't hear about it. My wife was a teacher here in Middletown for almost 40 years, and one of her teachers, a young lady, got cancer. And Bruce used to work out, and he still does, at the Atlantic Club in Redmond. Well, she was working on a machine, and she had tears coming down, and he didn't notice her right away, but she said, "Why are you crying?" She says, "I can't get this one doctor to look at me. It's like 3 months. And I don't know what kind of cancer she had, but she was getting very sick." Well, Bruce steps out, calls this doctor. Next day, he was able to see him. But he does so many acts of kindness. And Same with a number of the guys from the East Street Band that you don't hear about. They're
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, and I think to do those acts of kindness and not seek any publicity for them is even more meaningful. So I appreciate you sharing that particular story. Thank you. Any other questions or stories? Okay, well, we will break it there. Hey, everybody on Zoom, if you didn't get to ask a question, my email is mziobro@monmouth.edu. You can easily Google me. Feel free to send your questions my way. Thank you so much to the audience. Thank you to the Historical Society for having me, and we look forward to seeing you more in the future. Have a great night.
Much like the